How to invest 100K in stocks for a beginner in Canada. What accounts should you have? What broker should you use? And what tools should you have before you start investing? And these are the 3 key big considerations for beginners in Canada. Now, welcome back to my channel. My name is Eric, and I developed this channel for the purpose of educating you on how to invest in the market. So if you are a complete beginner, you have no strategy, you have never invested before in your life, then this video is for you. Now, with $100,000, you do have quite a good amount to invest in the market, but you've got to be careful because you also have quite a bit of money to lose. So in this video, I'm going to cover the 3 absolutely essential questions you need to answer as a beginner before you even start doing any research whatsoever. So the first question is really, what kind of investing accounts you should have? Now, when you're looking at investing accounts, I'm not just talking about should you have a Robinhood app or a Wealthsimple or whatever. I'm talking about tax. I'm talking about how you can save on taxes. Now, in Canada, there are mainly 3 types of accounts. There are retirement savings account, there's a tax-free savings account, and there's also a regular investing account. Now, for a retirement savings account, you contribute money, you get your taxes back, and then many years later, when you take out money from that account, then you get taxed during that time. So it's a tax-delayed account. Now, for TFSA, it's slightly different. You put in your after-tax money, so then you get taxed already. And then afterwards, you let it run for however many years. When you take it out, you don't need to pay tax anymore. And the final one is a regular investing account where every time you make money, you get taxed. And when you lose money, you can use that to deduct your gain as well. So depending on where you are in life, if you have a relatively lower income, so you're not at the max tax bracket, then you would want to start with your TFSA. And that is really because you can contribute money to it after tax. So when you take it out, you don't need to pay tax on it. Now, if you have a high income and you're at probably the highest bracket in Canada, like 40, almost 50%, then you want to first max out your RRSP. Now, if you max out your RRSP, this means the money you put in there is really for long-term use. You're not planning to take it out in the next 2, 3, 5, 10 years. You're really looking to take it out once your income is lower, probably when you retire. So that's probably the account I would max out first. And for my portfolio right now is well over 100K, and I max out both of these accounts, both RSP and TFSA. Now, in terms of your regular investing account, I would usually treat that as the very last option, and that is really because every time you make a gain or you receive a dividend, you get taxed on it. So you don't want to be paying taxes so much because it's kind of like a transaction cost to your investing activity. So the second question is really which broker you should choose. Now, when it comes to broker, a lot of people just go for the lowest fee. What is the lowest fee broker? How can I get it to a $6 per transaction instead of a $9 per transaction? That's what most people care about. Now, when you think about it, if you are a long-term investor, if you are not planning to day trade, then the transaction cost, a couple of dollars, really is not going to make too much of a difference in a grand scheme of things. So instead of focusing on the lowest fee broker, what you should focus on is actually the most trustworthy broker. So for example, one of my students in New Zealand, he invested with a broker that has very low fees. But after 2 years, it went bankrupt. So then he lost his money and he has a hard time getting it back. So when you think about it, well, this is an important lesson because you don't want your money to be lost because the broker went bankrupt. And this is a very rare scenario, but it does happen. So that is one of the most important considerations when choosing your broker. Now for myself, I use TD Canada, not endorsing it or anything, but I just find that the most convenient to use. And in terms of the portal, it's also quite friendly. I know people that use RBC, CIBC as well. I think those are fine as long as your broker or your bank can satisfy your needs. Then I think you're in a good shape. The third question is really what kind of tools you should have. Now, this is a really complicated question because it really depends on your investing strategy. Now, if you are just a pure chart reader, a chartist, then you only really need the chart. And out of all the tools I use, I think this is probably the most important one because it allows you to see the price. You can apply indicators on it. You can look at patterns. So for myself, I actually don't use the charts that is provided by my broker. I have quite a few brokerage accounts, and I don't use any of their charts because I can't customize it the way I want it to. So in terms of charts, I use a website called tradingview.com. You've probably heard of it. It's completely free. There is a paid version if you want to use it, but essentially I would just use the free version because the chart is fantastic. And there's also a community there that talks about stocks and talk about ideas, where to enter and where to exit. Now, the second tool you probably need is a source of news. Now, this is really up to your preference on how you want to absorb news. Some people have subscription to Financial Times. Some people like to follow Forbes, so on and so forth. Now, for myself, I mainly use the news in Google News. It's an app I have on my phone, and essentially every day I just go check it for 5 minutes or so to see if there's anything that is interesting that is happening. Now, as we are in the middle of the coronavirus crash right now, most of the news is pretty negative and same old, nothing too interesting. Now, you also need another tool to get financial data. Now, financial data is probably the most useful and least understood source of information because it requires you to look at financial statements, which it's like a 200-300 page document. But you do need some sort of analysis on it so you can get comfortable with the company, so you can understand the company is doing well or not. So make sure you have that as well. And the final one is really a tracker. Tracking your investment. Now, sometimes your broker will do it for you. For example, TD Canada will track my return for me. But you also need a tracker to track a list of companies you're interested in that you're not investing immediately. Sometimes, for example, I have Shopify on my list, an e-commerce company, that I am not invested in it yet. But in the future, I might consider buying it. So you do need a tracker to track it. And hopefully that combines with the chart, so it's easy for you to pull up the chart and then look at the news as well. So that's actually something TradingView can do. So if you don't have a chart software, you don't have a tracker, and you don't have a source of news, then you can start with tradingview.com. Yeah, so that is pretty much it. Those are the 3 big considerations you need to work out before you even start researching, before you even need to find your first stock. So once you get that settled down, then you are ready to start doing some research. So I'll see you in the next video. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Please help support me by subscribe, and you can watch the next recommended video here as well. So I'll see you in the next one.